Before we begin, imagine this: a cold autumn morning. Mist rises from a silent lake. A hunter hides among the reeds, barely breathing. Then, a flock of wild ducks appears from the clouds. Within seconds, history changes. That single bird would one day feed emperors, rescue starving civilizations, inspire legendary chefs, and become one of the world's oldest domesticated animals. But very few people know the incredible journey behind it. So before we uncover this forgotten story, take just 1 second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every subscription helps us bring more untold histories, forgotten civilizations, and fascinating food stories to life. Now, let's travel back thousands of years. Nearly 10,000 years ago, long before kingdoms, castles, or written history existed, humans lived beside rivers, marshes, and wetlands. Life was brutal. There were no farms, no supermarkets. Every meal depended on nature. Among the reeds, one bird appeared almost everywhere: the duck. It looked ordinary, small, quiet, harmless. But appearances were deceiving. Ducks could fly thousands of kilometers, swim effortlessly, survive freezing winters, and provide people with meat, eggs, feathers, and fat. Ancient hunters quickly realized something remarkable. Unlike deer or wild cattle, ducks returned to the same lakes year after year. If you learned their migration routes, you never went hungry. For prehistoric families, ducks became one of the most reliable food sources on Earth. Archaeologists have discovered duck bones in ancient camps across Europe, Asia, and Africa, dating back thousands of years. These weren't random discoveries. They reveal something extraordinary. Humans weren't simply eating ducks. They were studying them, learning their behavior, predicting their movements, understanding nature in ways that helped entire communities survive. As glaciers melted after the last ice age, wetlands expanded across continents. These marshes became paradise for ducks, and paradise for humans. Entire villages were built beside lakes, because ducks always returned. Every autumn brought food. Every spring brought hope. The duck became more than prey. It became a symbol of survival. Ancient cave paintings in parts of Europe even depict water birds flying across rivers. Historians believe these images may represent some of humanity's earliest observations of seasonal migration. People noticed something mysterious. Every year, the birds disappeared. Months later, they returned, without maps, without roads, without anyone guiding them. To ancient people, this seemed almost magical. Many believed ducks carried messages from the spirit world. Others believed they guided lost souls across rivers, separating life and death. As human societies slowly evolved, ducks continued shaping everyday life. Children gathered eggs hidden among reeds. Women collected feathers for warm bedding. Hunters crafted special nets designed only for catching waterfowl. Nothing went to waste. The meat fed families, the fat became cooking oil, the feathers insulated clothing. Even bones became tools. One simple bird supported entire communities. Thousands of years passed. Then something remarkable happened. Instead of hunting ducks, people began keeping them alive. No one knows exactly where duck domestication began. Many historians point toward ancient China. Others suggest Southeast Asia. Wherever it happened, it changed history forever. Wild ducks slowly became comfortable living near humans. People fed them grain, protected them from predators, allowed them to breed safely. Generation after generation, wild instincts faded. Domesticated ducks were born. It was one of humanity's greatest agricultural achievements. Unlike chickens, ducks required very little care. They found their own insects. They cleaned rice fields by eating pests. They produced eggs almost year-round. Farmers quickly realized ducks weren't just food. They were workers, living tools that made farming easier. This simple partnership transformed agriculture across Asia. Ancient Chinese farmers even released ducks into flooded rice fields. The ducks ate insects and weeds. Their waste fertilized crops. Both rice and ducks flourished together. It was an early example of sustainable farming. Thousands of years before the modern world invented the term, the duck had quietly become one of humanity's greatest allies. Yet beyond the farms, its legend continued growing. Stories spread across villages. Some believed ducks brought prosperity. Others believed seeing ducks at sunrise promised a successful harvest. In ancient folklore, ducks often represented loyalty because many species formed lasting pairs. Watching them glide across, still water inspired poets, storytellers, and artists for centuries. What began as survivals slowly became culture. Food became tradition. Nurture became history. And this was only the beginning, because while ordinary families depended on ducks to survive, kings, emperors, and entire empires were about to turn this humble bird into one of the world's greatest luxury foods. For thousands of years, ducks had been the food of ordinary people. But around 3000 to 2000 BC, something changed. The bird that once fed hunters in lonely wetlands slowly entered the kitchens of kings. And once royalty discovered duck, there was no turning back. Ancient Egypt was among the first great civilizations to carefully observe waterfowl. Every year, thousands of migratory ducks arrived along the Nile River. Egyptian hunters developed ingenious traps made from reeds and woven nets. Temple walls still show scenes of nobles hunting ducks from elegant boats, while servants collected birds from the marshes. For wealthy Egyptians, duck wasn't just dinner. It was a symbol of abundance. Large feasts often included roasted duck glazed with honey, dates, herbs, and spices. Only the richest families could enjoy such meals regularly. To everyone else, it remained a rare luxury. Far to the east, another civilization was transforming the relationship between humans and ducks. Ancient China. Here, duck farming evolved into an art. Unlike wild hunting, Chinese farmers perfected breeding techniques that produced healthier birds, larger eggs, and more reliable food supplies. Villages began raising hundreds of ducks together. The birds wandered through flooded rice fields, eating insects that destroyed crops. In return, farmers protected them from predators. It was one of history's greatest farming partnerships. The emperor's kitchens soon demanded thousands of ducks every year. Royal chefs experimented endlessly. They roasted them over fruitwood fires. They steamed them with aromatic herbs. They slowly discovered techniques that made the skin unbelievably crisp while keeping the meat tender and juicy. These experiments would eventually inspire one of the most famous dishes in history, Peking duck. But that masterpiece was still centuries away. Meanwhile, in Europe, ducks followed a very different journey. The Romans admired nearly everything that could be eaten. They collected recipes from every land they conquered. Duck quickly became a favorite. Roman cooks stuffed ducks with herbs, figs, nuts, and honey before roasting them over charcoal. Lavish banquets displayed enormous platters of beautifully decorated birds. Guests judged a host's wealth by the variety of meats served. A perfectly roasted duck impressed everyone. Roman writers even described methods for fattening birds before slaughter, proving that selective feeding was already practiced nearly 2,000 years ago. Food was becoming science. As the Roman Empire collapsed, Europe entered The Middle Ages. Life became harder. Wars spread. Trade declined. Famine appeared often. Yet ducks remained dependable. Unlike expensive cattle, ducks reproduced quickly. They survived in ponds, rivers, and village wetlands. Monasteries raised ducks because they required little land. Peasant families depended on duck eggs during difficult seasons. For many people, ducks meant survival. But castles told a different story. Inside medieval banqueting halls, roasted duck became a centerpiece of celebration. Huge wooden tables overflowed with roasted birds, fresh bread, cheese, and wine. Musicians played, while servants carved ducks before nobles, dressed in velvet and silk. The meal wasn't only about hunger, it was a display of power. During this period, hunting became one of Europe's greatest royal traditions. Kings built private hunting parks filled with lakes and forests. Only nobles were allowed to hunt there. Wild ducks became prized trophies. Special hunting dogs were trained to retrieve birds from icy water. Falcons were even used to catch ducks in flight. Every successful hunt ended with an extravagant feast. The duck had transformed from survival food into aristocratic entertainment. Across Asia, however, innovation continued. Chinese chefs refined roasting techniques over generations. Instead of simply cooking the bird, they carefully prepared every step. Air was pumped beneath the skin. The duck was coated with malt syrup. It dried for hours, then it roasted slowly until the skin became glass-like and unbelievably crisp. Visitors from distant kingdoms traveled for days just to taste these royal dishes. The reputation of Chinese duck cuisine spread across the Silk Road. Merchants carried stories farther than spices. Soon duck became famous far beyond China's borders. Back in Europe, merchants returning from the East brought more than silk and porcelain. They carried ideas, new spices, cooking techniques, different ways of preparing poultry. Slowly, European kitchens changed. Roasted duck appeared with cinnamon, cloves, oranges, wine reductions, and rich sauces. Each generation added something new. Each culture claimed its own version. The duck became a global traveler. By the late Middle Ages, duck had earned a unique reputation. It belonged to both worlds. The poor could raise ducks in village ponds. The rich served magnificent roasted ducks at royal banquets. Very few foods crossed social classes so successfully. It was practical enough for farmers, elegant enough for emperors. And history was about to enter an age where global exploration would spread ducks and their recipes to every corner of the world. But the greatest transformation was still ahead. The year was 1492. The world was changing faster than ever before. Massive wooden ships crossed oceans that many believed had no end. Merchants chased fortunes. Kings searched for new lands. Empires dreamed of controlling the world, but hidden among barrels of grain, crates of vegetables, and sacks of spices was a bird that would quietly travel farther than almost any other domesticated animal. The duck. Few people remember its role today, yet without ducks, many early voyages might have ended very differently. Unlike cattle, ducks required little food. Unlike pigs, they occupied very little space. Unlike chickens, many duck breeds adapted surprisingly well to long journeys. Most importantly, they continued laying eggs even during extended voyages. Fresh eggs became priceless for exhausted sailors, suffering from months at sea. Captains quickly realized ducks were worth protecting. Some ships even assigned crew members specifically to care for poultry during long expeditions, when storms destroyed supplies. The ducks often became the crew's final reserve of fresh meat. Without realizing it, The age of exploration was helping ducks conquer the world. As European ships reached Asia, Africa, and the Americas, domesticated ducks spread alongside them. Spanish explorers introduced European breeds into the New World. Portuguese traders carried ducks to distant colonies across Africa and India. Dutch merchants exchanged breeding stock throughout Southeast Asia. French settlers introduced elegant roasting traditions wherever they established communities. Within only a few generations, ducks could be found on nearly every inhabited continent. Each civilization welcomed the bird in its own way. Some valued its eggs, others prized its meat. Many appreciated its feathers. Almost everyone found a reason to keep ducks close. But while Europe was busy expanding overseas, China remained the undisputed master of duck cuisine. Inside the imperial kitchens of Beijing, hundreds of royal chefs competed to prepare meals worthy of the emperor. Every ingredient mattered. Every detail mattered. Every second of cooking mattered. Preparing one perfect duck could take days. The birds were carefully selected from special farms. Only healthy ducks of the correct size entered the royal kitchens. Their feathers were removed with incredible care to avoid damaging the skin. Next came one of history's most ingenious cooking techniques. Using a small opening near the neck, chefs gently pumped air beneath the skin. This separated the skin from the meat. Why? Because during roasting, the skin would become unbelievably crisp, while the meat stayed incredibly juicy. Even today, chefs around the world admire this remarkable technique. The duck was then coated with a sweet glaze made from malt syrup. It hung for many hours until the skin dried completely. Only then did roasting begin. Special wood-burning ovens created intense heat. The ducks slowly turned until every inch developed a deep golden color. When the meal finally reached the emperor's table, the skin crackled like thin glass. The aroma filled the palace. Thin slices were wrapped inside delicate pancakes with cucumber, spring onions, and sweet bean sauce. Every bite balanced sweetness, saltiness, smokiness, and rich duck flavor. Foreign ambassadors who tasted the dish carried stories back across Asia and Europe. Soon, people everywhere wanted to know the secret of China's legendary duck. Its reputation became almost mythical. Meanwhile, another culinary revolution was happening thousands of kilometers away. France. French nobles believed cooking itself was an art form. Royal chefs experimented constantly. Instead of hiding duck beneath heavy spices, as medieval cooks often had, French cuisine celebrated its natural flavor. They paired duck with oranges, red wine, fresh herbs, butter sauces, forest mushrooms, slow reductions. Each recipe became more elegant than the last. By the 1600s, duck had become one of the greatest symbols of fine dining across Europe. To serve beautifully roasted duck at an aristocratic banquet was to announce wealth, sophistication, and power. Kings entertained foreign diplomats with magnificent feasts where duck often appeared as the centerpiece. Food had become politics. A perfect meal could strengthen alliances just as effectively as a treaty. England developed its own traditions. Across the countryside, ducks thrived in ponds beside farms. Village families raised them for both eggs and meat. During Christmas and winter festivals, roast duck became a cherished family meal. Unlike expensive swans reserved for royalty, ducks remained accessible to ordinary people. This unique balance made ducks unusual. They belonged to every social class. Farmers raised them. Merchants sold them. Kings proudly served them. Very few foods in history crossed class boundaries so successfully. As trade expanded across the globe, Spices transformed duck recipes forever. Black pepper from India, cinnamon from Sri Lanka, cloves from Indonesia, nutmeg from the Banda Islands. These precious ingredients traveled thousands of kilometers before reaching European kitchens. Chefs eagerly experimented. The result was an entirely new generation of duck dishes, unlike anything seen before. Roasted duck with spiced fruit, duck pies, duck stews, smoked duck, stuffed duck. Every nation proudly claimed its own masterpiece. Then came another revolution, the printing press. For centuries, recipes had been closely guarded secrets inside royal kitchens. Now, cookbooks spread across Europe. Professional chefs wrote detailed instructions. Ordinary families could finally prepare dishes once reserved for kings. Duck recipes appeared page after page. Some books contained dozens of different methods. Roasting, boiling, smoking, stuffing, slow cooking. Cooking knowledge was no longer locked inside palaces. It entered homes, markets, villages, and cities. The duck had completed an extraordinary journey. It was no longer simply a wild bird hunted beside ancient lakes. It had become one of the world's most celebrated foods. Yet the greatest transformation was still waiting. Because the Industrial Revolution would soon change farming forever, allowing millions of ducks to be raised every year, and turning a royal luxury into a meal enjoyed across the globe. By the 1700s, the world was changing once again. The Industrial Revolution was beginning to reshape civilization. Factories replaced workshops. Steam engines replaced horses. Cities expanded faster than anyone had imagined. And agriculture entered an entirely new era. For thousands of years, nearly every duck had been raised on small family farms. They wandered freely across ponds, rivers, and rice fields. Farmers knew every bird by sight, but growing cities created a problem. Millions of people now needed food every single day. Traditional farming could no longer keep up. Duck farming had to evolve. Across Europe and Asia, larger breeding farms began appearing. Farmers carefully selected ducks that grew faster, produced more eggs, and adapted well to domestic life. Over generations, breeding transformed many duck varieties into highly productive farm animals. One breed, the Peking Duck, became especially famous. Originally developed in China, it eventually spread across Europe and North America. Its rapid growth, tender meat, and calm temperament made it ideal for commercial farming. Within decades, Peking ducks became one of the most common domestic ducks in the world. Meanwhile, railways and steamships changed another part of history. Fresh duck could now travel hundreds of kilometers without spoiling. Restaurants in large cities suddenly had access to birds raised far away in quiet villages. Markets expanded, trade exploded. Duck was no longer a local specialty. It became an international commodity. Professional chefs embraced this opportunity. Luxury hotels competed to create unforgettable duck dishes. Menus became increasingly sophisticated. Roasted duck with orange glaze, smoked duck breast with herbs, duck confit slowly cooked in its own fat, duck pâté served with fresh bread. Each recipe reflected centuries of culinary tradition. What had once been simple survival food had become fine dining. France led much of this culinary revolution. French chefs believed no part of the duck should ever be wasted. The breast became elegant entree. The legs were slowly preserved in duck fat to create the famous confit. The liver inspired luxurious pâté, bones-flavored rich stocks. Even rendered duck fat became treasured for roasting vegetables. This philosophy of using every part of the animal echoed practices that ancient farmers had followed thousands of years earlier. Only now, it had become gourmet cuisine. Across Asia, duck continued inspiring remarkable regional dishes. In China, Peking duck remained the emperor of festive meals. Families gathered around the table as skilled chefs carved the duck into delicate slices. In Vietnam, duck appeared in fragrant noodle soups and ginger-based dishes. In Thailand, spicy red curry transformed duck into a fiery masterpiece. Malaysia and Singapore developed aromatic, roasted ducks glazed with soy sauce and Chinese spices. Indonesia introduced rich herbal recipes cooked slowly over charcoal. Each nation created its own identity through duck, different spices, different techniques. One remarkable bird. By the late 19th century, duck had become truly global. It appeared in royal banquets, humble village kitchens, elegant Parisian restaurants, bustling Chinese markets, and family celebrations around the world. Its journey had crossed continents, cultures, religions, and centuries, but the 20th century would change food forever. Modern refrigeration, transportation, and global trade would make duck available to millions who had never tasted it before. At the same time, historians and archaeologists would uncover astonishing evidence proving just how ancient humanity's relationship with ducks really was. And one surprising discovery would completely rewrite what we thought. We knew about this remarkable bird. The 20th century changed everything. For thousands of years, duck had been a seasonal food. People waited for hunting season. Farmers raised only a limited number of birds. Royal kitchens enjoyed the finest ducks, while ordinary families often had to wait for festivals or special occasions. But modern technology erased those boundaries. Railways became faster. Refrigerated ships crossed oceans. Air travel connected continents. Fresh duck could now travel thousands of kilometers while maintaining its quality. For the first time in history, someone living in London could enjoy Chinese-style duck. Someone in New York could taste French duck confit. Someone in Tokyo could experience European roasting traditions. The duck had officially become a global food. As restaurants multiplied across the world, chefs began reinventing centuries-old recipes. Some respected ancient traditions. Others challenged them completely. Modern culinary schools treated duck like a masterpiece. Young chefs spent years learning how to cook it perfectly, because duck is not like chicken. Its richer meat demands precision. Cook it too long, it becomes dry. Cook it too little, it loses its perfect texture. Only experience creates perfection. That challenge made duck one of the greatest tests of a professional chef's skill. Meanwhile, scientists were making discoveries that amazed historians. Archaeologists excavating ancient settlements uncovered thousands of duck bones. Some were over 8,000 years old. Others showed clear signs of domestication. Ancient tools used for hunting ducks emerged from riverbeds and caves. Even preserved feathers survived in frozen regions. Each discovery revealed the same truth. Humans and ducks had lived side by side, almost since the beginning of civilization. Very few animals had shared such a long relationship with mankind. The duck influenced more than food. Its feathers filled pillows, blankets, and winter clothing. For centuries, soldiers marched wearing jackets insulated with duck down. Explorers survived freezing temperatures because of those feathers. Today, high-performance outdoor clothing still relies on duck down for warmth. One bird changed both kitchens and wardrobes. Across the world, ducks also became part of culture and tradition. In China, serving duck during celebrations symbolizes prosperity and family unity. In France, duck dishes remain a source of national pride. Across Southeast Asia, duck recipes are passed from one generation to the next, treasured family heirlooms. Even today, countless families gather around the dinner table during festivals to enjoy recipes that are hundreds of years old. Every bite carries history. Yet modern life has brought new challenges. Wetlands, the natural homes of wild ducks, have disappeared in many regions due to urban development and pollution. Conservation organizations now work tirelessly to restore rivers, lakes, and marshes where migratory birds can safely rest. Protecting ducks is no longer just about protecting one species. It means protecting entire ecosystems. Healthy wetlands provide clean water, prevent flooding, support fish, insects, plants, and thousands of other animals. Saving ducks helps save nature itself. Today, more than 1 billion domestic ducks are raised around the world every year. Their meat, eggs, and feathers support millions of livelihoods, from tiny family farms in Vietnam to luxury restaurants in Paris to bustling markets in Beijing. The journey continues. The duck remains one of humanity's most important birds. And perhaps that is the most remarkable part of this story. Thousands of years ago, an unknown hunter stood quietly beside a misty lake, waiting for a flock of wild ducks to land. He could never have imagined that one day, the same bird would feed emperors, inspire legendary chefs, travel across every continent, become part of countless cultures, and write one of the greatest culinary stories in human history. The duck was never just another bird. It was a survivor, a traveler, a companion to civilization itself. Its story is, in many ways, our story.